there are two types of writing. You may be doing what we call input writing or output writing. So input writing is the set of things that you may write before you do an activity, maybe requesting a grant, expressing an interest, or writing a proposal for an activity. It could be a consultancy, it could be a research project, it could be like maybe a funded, like it could actually be institutional grant as well. So when you are writing to request a chance to do something, requesting an opportunity to do something, so those kind of writings, they are kind of input writing. But when you have done something, and then you want to report on what you have done, that's we'll clarify this ones as output writing. So, and in particular, a lot of the things you see in input writing goes into output writing in a way, in terms of the background. But the difference is that you do output writing when you have actually finished the research. And I must say, let me say clearly, quickly at this point that I see a habit, an attitude around here in this part of the world when people want to do research, and particularly in let me say social sciences now. I'm particularly about social sciences. The other fields, things might be different in the other fields. So people will be asked to go and write chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3 for a paper in which they have not done any work. They have not done anything. They have not found anything. There is nothing they want to write about. Just go and write chapter 1, 2, 3 and bring it. So the question is, what's all about? So it's like predetermining exactly writing what you have not done, writing about something you have not done, so, writing about something you have not seen, right? I know that. Let me explain a little bit where this is coming from. In the early part of, let's say, the last century, the 1990s. So what we saw was that most of the knowledge that were available about development were at the macro level. So, and people had settled on some macro level models, macro level methods, macro level frameworks that they are always using to do analysis, to interpret this and that everywhere. So, so in that setting, because all the models are already set, there is nothing else you are adding to anything. All the frameworks are set, nothing else you are adding to anything. So all you have to do is just to go and just familiarize yourself with the models, with its theory, with the models, and then choose one of the models that are available in the literature and say, I want to use this model to analyze this data, because those models are already they know everything, right? The models know everything about the world, how the world functions. They already stylize everything, into the models. I mean, the way they think about it. So if you want to do any research, all you have to do is just to demonstrate that you understand the literature, right? Demonstrate that you have surveyed all the models very well, and then you have selected one that you really want to work with. You want to work with, and then go and get data from somewhere, and analyze the data, and then write about it. That's it. Down. You are done. That's what research in paper was like then. But around beginning from say 1930s, when the Great Depression happened, Then towards Second World War, people started, they were expressing interest in some more micro level understanding of the micro level, because a lot of things you see on at the cannot explain them properly. So people start getting interested in micro models, micro level analysis. Then in the world, around the world, there came an interest in micro level analysis, micro level data collection. So people started collecting data. Whereas in the past, it used to be aggregate data in like growth, GDP growth, like inflation rate, unemployment rate, just rate, interest rate, financial lending rate, lending indices, and so on. So all these aggregate indices, that's what people are just focusing on in the past. But with the resurgence of interest in more micro level analysis, the global north, things began to change. But in the South, because the South lags behind a lot, they still kept to the old way of doing things, even up to now. Even up to now. So sometimes I get, I don't feel good when I see somebody doing a thesis and then they say, go and write chapter 1, chapter 3. And what he's going to discuss in his paper, he has not even done anything. Right? It's just this, those kind of papers are just, they are, how will I say, they are moribund. They don't communicate anything. They don't mean anything. They don't communicate knowledge at all. And I will explain why. Output writing is supposed to begin when you have something you want to communicate. That's output writing. It begins with when you have something you need to communicate, right? It's not when you are applying to do something. When you're applying to do something, that's proposal. In the proposal, you can have a background to it, at least an idea of what you want to do, or what you want to do, and perhaps how you want to do it. But that's not output writing. So that's just input writing. With a proposal, fine. But when you are writing an output, you start writing. You start out to have what you want to write about. Okay. Friends, is still a problem for a lot of people to understand. I had this argument with some professors some time ago in outside this country here. So and they said, if you have to get the results, have evidence, have something that is meaningful, right? That you want to write about before you start writing. That's cheating. That is like you are going from the answer to the question. Just laughed because their minds were still buried in that past where every research starts with just a minute, please. Paul, can you hear me now? Thank you. Hello? Okay. So now, so Input writing, output writing. So generally, if you are in terms of development, I'm talking about development now. We don't do macro stuff in development. We don't do macro aggregate level kind of research because development is focused a lot more in terms of trying to understand the more micro level issues, gain more micro level understanding so that we know exactly what to do. So before you start writing, in terms of the output, you need to have what you want to write about. That's general rule. You can't just start writing without knowing what you want to write about. Okay, when we get there, Sha, we'll discuss it more. So let's also go through maybe input writing to start with. But some general rule. Number one, you can't write well. You cannot write well if you don't have the following. Number one, if you don't clearly understand the dimensions of what you want to write about, you can't do good writing. You can't write well. Writing is communication. You are communicating an idea. You are telling a story. If you don't understand the story properly, you can't be the one to tell the story. So if you try to write a story you don't understand, your readers will know that you don't understand what you're talking about clearly. So number one, you can't be a good writer. You can't write well if you don't understand the dimensions of what you want to write about. That's number one. Number two, you can't write well if you don't know the purpose of your writing and you don't know the audience you are that's going to read your writing. You cannot produce your writing will not be a good writing if you don't put your audience in mind. The audience you are writing to, if you don't know them very well, and then the purpose, what do you want them to get out of the writing? If you're not clear about the purpose of the writing, you cannot produce a good write-up. Number three, in writing, in trying to communicate an idea, you have to be able to be clear in your mind what an example looks like. An example of what you're writing about. What an example, like an illustration. What does it look like? Okay. Because sometimes you have to use examples or illustrations to communicate an issue. Sometimes you require some examples, right? If you cannot say, okay, why is this, for example, why is this topic important? Why is this subject important? Okay, it's important for social reasons. Now, let me give an example. And the example resonates with who listening to you. They are communicating the importance of what you want to write about. So if you cannot reduce what you are doing to an example, then there's a problem. For instance, you want if like you've done you've done research. How resource transfers across households, how they make difference in people's behavior within households, let's say. So somebody will ask you, I can't figure out what you're talking about. Then you go straight. For instance, if you have a family system which men have to provide for their own households, and their own brothers' households. So what you see is that all the money that, let's say it is a local society, bring them to their own compound or something like that. Taking out of that compound and brought it into their husband's compound. And brothers live together, they marry and bring their wives there. So what you see is that in that kind of setting, you see that all the money that the women earn, they spend it in their own households. But the men, part of the money they earn, they have to spend in their brother's household, so that their brother's children also can feed if their brothers have hard time. That's the communication, right? It means that you know your subject. You have an idea of what you're writing about. That topic may look not simple to everybody who's listening to it, has helped to clarify it in the minds of those who are listening. Okay? Now, so what an example looks like, you must be clear. about an example so that you can communicate what you can communicate your message. Now, you have to study and comprehend the issue or the problem. That is where the teacher review comes in. Okay? Study it and make sure you understand the subject area. Okay? The problem area. Subject area. Make sure you understand the problem area. Not then the other one is understand the logic or understand the logical framework. Do proper logical framework, you cannot write well. Because readers want to read something that is logical. In every communication, logical presentation is very, very, very. Present your materials logically, readers will not be so interested in reading it. Some people read it. I can tell you that there are some writers, they can write a 40-page document, and that 40-page document, you can read it without leaving the seat, without dropping it. You'll finish reading it before you drop it because it is so logical. It just drags your mind. It drags your mind into it. Mind, you just keep wondering. Your mind will not leave it. But you can read a 2-page document and you're frustrated because your mind can't even put together the logic. You can't even see what the person is. You're not hearing anything at all. You can't put anything together. What the person is saying, just junking up and down, confusing you with where you're supposed to put something in footnote. It puts it in the body of the message, and you're just confused and distracted. So logical framework and logical presentation are very, very important. Then, but the other thing is that the power of numbers is if you are writing you can't cite data, it's going to be uninteresting to read because people can't even live, they can't even identify with it, right? If you cannot, you have to appreciate the power of numbers. Citing, I can tell any story. If you cannot cite data, then it's in this difficult writing. Now, also, you can in writing, you must also see writing as an opportunity to learn something new. You might think you know everything, no? You might think you know everything you want to write about. But when you start, you will likely not understood well. If your writing is very logical, you will likely see what you've not understood well. And something new will just perhaps show up as you're doing that. So writing sometimes is itself is learning. Okay? Now, let's for the simplest form of writing in terms of input writing is a concept note. You go to discuss an idea project, it's funding different activities. And then you have an idea in mind, and then you just meet your friend or your colleague or your acquaintance. Hey, oh boy, I'm thinking about something like this. I think we can do something like this together, so on and so forth. Well, he might understand it to an extent or not fully. Next thing we'll say is that, can you send me a concept note? Not proposal, concept note is a starting point. First of all, the idea you're talking about, let's see the idea. What's it about? Let's see it. Now, a concept note is a brief outline of your proposed project. A lot of times, organizations solicit for concept notes, and sometimes it's not solicited, but you have a good idea you want to share with them, and then you share. So whether it's solicited or unsolicited, a concept is of a project that you are proposing. Okay. So, and it's also the first expression of a project idea, and it's typically short, 3 to 5 pages maximum. A concept note should not be that long. Maximum 3 to 5 pages maximum. Now, in a way, is one can see it as a short version of a proposal, right? So that if the target donor likes it, then they will request a full proposal. Now, for concept note, most of the time, when it is solicited, when it is advertised, organizations they don't provide formats. So you have to use the format that you are familiar with, you are comfortable with, as long as it helps you to express the ideas you have in mind. Now, to be successful, for a concept note to be successful, you must capture the interest of the funding organization or the beneficiary of that proposed project. You must demonstrate that the idea is worth further consideration by them. And your first sentence is very important. And the way you write it, you must want the reader to continue reading. If you start with an opening sentence that is not really interesting, it's not encouraging, so somebody just throw it around. Somebody will just get discouraged. Okay? So there are many ways to start a concept note, but there are some good ways and some bad ways. If you want, you must capture the interest. That is, you must not make it bland. You must make it persuasive, fact-based, persuasive, having facts, right? And you must be able to say that those facts that you see on ground, they are worth for further investigation, so that one will understand exactly what is going on. So before being able to design appropriate interventions. Okay, the first sentence is very important. If you write a very bad opening, it's a problem. Okay. Now, the structure of concept note. You have a title, snappy, informative, and distinctive. Then, when you have written title, look at the background. What's the problem? Why is it crucial to address the problem? What has already been done to solve the problem? And what remains? Right? That's like the background. Now, after the background, your objectives. So what do you want to do? What do you want to do? There could be primary and secondary objectives, but you have to stay out exactly what you want to do. Now, after what you want to do, what are the outputs? What are the things that will come out of the project? And of course, what must come out of the project must be defined by the objectives. So then you talk about your scope of work. That is, what activities are needed to achieve the objectives? How long will they last? What are the boundaries? Then the beneficiaries of the expected project and the expected impact. So, this language, UEP, UEP. That's one boy starts saying, who school help, So that is the project you have in mind. Who does it help? Who are the beneficiaries? So what are the expected benefits? Quantitative and qualitative. When, where, and why, right? Then you discuss the project management, who will do what, and how will it be managed, and how will the objectives be achieved. Then the budget, how much will it cost? So a lot of times, sometimes they will just ask for the idea and not the budget. But if they have asked for the budget, you have to add the budget to it. To say this brilliant idea I'm proposing, this is how much it will cost to be able to implement it. Okay. So concept notes are very common. There are institutions that they cannot do anything without a concept note. And the concept note must be on the file. It must be on file. For anything you want to do, there must be a concept note, there must be a budget, and after the budget, then you have the implementation plan. That's a work plan to implement to implement the idea. Okay. So in a concept note, this is what you expect to see in a concept note, right? So if you had asked a concept note, you have to structure it this way, very clearly. And anybody who reads a concept you submit and has those structures knows that you know exactly what you're doing. Okay. Now, some useful piece of advice. Okay. Do not overwhelm the reader with details. Avoid sounding vague or unsure about what you want to accomplish. Be positive and definite. There are people that just think that writing a lot, writing so much, it impresses people. Of course, it impresses no one, no, except people that don't know what they're doing. Some people believe that if they write plenty, then they are seen as being proficient in writing. It's a joke. That's not what. That's not. People don't look for quantity of writing now. Maybe years ago, people look for quantity of writing. Oh, this person can write quantity, quantity, quantity. No, it is the quality of the writing that is key. Some people, what they should communicate in one page, they will use 3 pages to communicate it, and it's a lie. In the course of talking too much, they start telling lies. So don't overwhelm the reader with too much details. Be very when you write concisely, write specifically, write definitely. Don't write what we are talking about. You go back, it's a joke. It goes nowhere. Number 2, consider your audience. In most cases, you have to write different concept notes for different donors for the same issue. Only when your concept note fits into the framework of the donor, your request will have a chance. Get as much possible on objectives, hot topics, and interests you are targeting. Okay? Right. So if you meet somebody, you meet somebody in a meeting and you have a discussion of an idea and you say, oh, okay, can we discuss this? He's asking for a concept note. So in that concept note, before you write it, you have to look for the organization, look for what they do, look for their interests, find them and find information about them so that you are not writing outside of what you can have something good, but that's not their focus. So that's a waste of time. Number 3, consider your language. If your concept paper is going to be reviewed by scientists in your field, scientific terms and technical jargon may be acceptable. However, if your proposal is being reviewed by journalists or laypersons, this type of language will not communicate your ideas effectively. For instance, in this part of the world, I know people like to impress a lot. People like to impress, especially there's a habit in our universities now to want to impress people a lot that you understand English. Like very simple words to communicate. They start using big words. There is a lacuna in our knowledge on this. There's an opprobrium in. Oh gosh, you're wasting your time. You're wasting your time. Those by the time they get it, they just throw it on one side. If you want to compete with Patrick Obayagbon, you're good to go, but nobody will listen to you. Nobody will call you back. Okay? Your terms must be very, very simple. Simplified language. Don't think that as much jargon she writes, it's going to impress anybody. Right? Concept notes must have very simple languages, very simple grammar. No big words, that somebody has to go and look for a dictionary to interpret. If somebody has to go to interpret what you've written, it's a joke. It's a waste of time. You're not going to get anything from them. Number 4, appearance is important. this concept paper represents you. The type of the typing should be large enough to read easily. Margins should be standard size. You must check for spelling errors before submission. You must pay attention to details. You must number all pages. Place your name and date in the header. Include your contact information with the concept paper. These are very, very important, right? If you don't spell check, if you don't check your grammar, if you don't spell check things and you just submit, you have just wasted your time. In fact, you have actually bulldozed your image, and they won't come back to you. Number 5, identify a door opener. If you are writing an unsolicited concept note, sending random concept note to general address of an organization is really successful. If you do not know anybody who could introduce you to somebody in the organization, try to establish personal contact by phone or with a meeting. Only once you have convinced somebody who supports your concept within the organization will you have a realistic chance, right, with a concept note submission. All right? So, you have not had a contact with, you don't have a door opener for your idea. Sometimes they will take it and give it to that and give it to their friends, right, to go and implement. So you're just wasting your time. Okay, that's about concept notes. There's something we call expression of interest. Expression of interest. So this one is usually advertised. Concept notes may not be advertised. It may be advertised or not advertised, but you can have a good concept note that you can discuss and share with some organization to fund. Okay, but if it is expression of interest, is usually advertised. I have to respond to it. They ask you to express something that they want to do. Now, or the idea is already conceived by them. Although you may have a better idea of the dimensions of that project or that idea, but they already conceived the idea in the expression of interest. But in the concept note, you are the person conceiving the idea, okay? Expression of interest, anybody who sends it out has already conceived the idea. No better, right? If it happens to be your area of expertise, you may know better about that idea, okay? And it's not a concept note, it's not a proposal. It's one step between the two, one step before proposal, okay? So what do you need to do? You need to tell the issuer about your organization and how you will provide the service if given the opportunity. If the issue considers your organization, if you consider that your organization is fit and your approach is suitable, they will shortlist you and request a proposal. Now, they ask you to express interest. So I'll tell you about the sections next. The next page. To be successful, you must demonstrate that you know exactly what they want and why they want it, because they will write it in the expression of interest. So you have to do some more background work, background understanding, for you to demonstrate clearly that you know exactly what they want and why they want it. Their request for expression of interest, you read it up, you read some more about their organizations, and then you also look around in terms of the thematic issue idea. You have a good understanding of that, gives you the chance to demonstrate that you know exactly what they want and why they want it. If you have doubts, there's usually a window for question and answer, because some of the expression of interest are written by some terrible consultants. Organizations that are putting out expression of interest or request of proposals, they always hire somebody to write those things for them. And sometimes the people that write it, they write it terribly. We had an experience of one expression of interest. So we got it, we responded to it. And then when we went to meet the organization, after they shortlisted us for a meeting, We got there and found out that the consultant that wrote the expression of interest is a terrible one. He didn't understand exactly the mind of the organization that wants to do that idea. Do that project. So the way the consultant wrote it was terrible. It was when we got into the door that we started learning exactly what the organization wanted. So if you have doubts about the expression of interest, there's always a window in which you can send them questions just for clarification, right? And then you clarify this. There's no chance to clarify because in that other one there was no chance to clarify. That's why it was when we got to the meeting that we decided telling us exactly what they had in mind. Now, also you have to show that the organization has people and experience to deliver the results. In this part of the world, most of the outfits, and let me also tell you something about developing world in this country in particular, and why is this. In Nigeria, every individual wants to be the boss somewhere. Every small person wants to be head of so-so, wants to be the executive director of so-so, wants to be the principal manager of so-so, wants to be the big guy in so-so. So you don't really have a lot of them coming together to form one big organization. So what they end up doing is that it will just be one person and one research assistant, or maybe one or two. But if you go to their website, oh, you think they are a gigantic organization. What they do is that they go and pick names of people from different places, tell them that they want to work together with them, and then they put them on their profile and say, this is who we are. You look at their profile, you think they have people. If you visit their office, you find out it's just the man, the man who is trying to be the big man, and just about two people. That's all. They have nothing. So that's what is killing the environment in this country. People are not serious, really. People are not serious. They take everything as just a joke. Everybody just wants to. In fact, there was a time in the insurance industry in Nigeria. Every Tom, Dick, and Harry wants to be MD of an insurance company until NICOM, National Insurance Commission, came and told them that if you want to own an insurance company, you must have as much capital. They use that one to weed off a lot of these all these mushroom institutions. The same way in the entrepreneurship sector in the country. Every tiny thing, every Jack, every Tom, Dick, and Harry wants to be bearing big names. That's it. And so you don't have big organizations. If you look at the enterprise surveys, you see that most of our organizations, 98% are just micro organizations. They don't merge, right? Partnerships are very limited, very few to find. They don't merge to become big organizations. The crisis happens, they get swept out. The same thing happens in the knowledge environment. The people that are just that's what they call them. And so when government ministries want to do a project and then they call them, they hire them, they know that they're looking for what to eat now. So they just put them on their list of consultants. And then so when a donor wants to support the government to do some things, maybe the government wants to spend about 10 million to do that work. They will tell the consultant, go and write a proposal and make it 10 million and bring it. After that 10 million, it's not going to get more than 2 million. No. Because hello? Paul, can you hear me? Thank you. All right. Okay. So, okay. To tell the issue. All right. So, I think the organization have the people and experience to do result. This last one, people just go shop around, look for people around to just put there. But unfortunately, they don't deliver. And in fact, when the organization comes to look, sometimes accidentally look, just come to check their office, they find out that they're disappointed. They don't have what they say they have. So it's a problem. Now, the structure. One, the title, right? It usually goes like something like consultancy to provide blah 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 blah, or consultancy to do so. Then you have to demonstrate your understanding of what they want. You have to tell them you understand what they want, and why they want it. Okay? A concise statement of what they want and perhaps why they want it from your understanding. Then you have to discuss your approach and your methodology. Now, a lot of people don't understand the difference between approach and methodology. I think I've explained it before. Your approach is a statement of how you would do it, how you would do the thing, how you would do it. The methodology is a detailed description of the steps you will take to do it. This is how I will do it. That's your approach. These are the details of the steps I'm going to take to do it. That's your methodology. Okay? Okay. Then the profile of your organization, you tell them about the organization what you do, what you have done that makes you suitable for that project. Then the profile of key personnel, what they have done that qualifies them to deliver. Then other evidence that they may request, right? You need to demonstrate your fitness in several areas, and then your availability when you're available for it. Then the budget. Okay? Sometimes it may be needed, but they will tell you whether they want budget or not. All right. Okay. So let me talk about the proposal, and then we just. So a proposal can be any of the following. It can be a follow-up to a concept note. It can be due to shortlisting, subsequent to expression of interest. Okay. Or it could just be a request for proposal. Or when they say terms of reference for a proposal, RFP, straight, that's a proposal straight. It can also be a response to a grant advertisement, and it can be unsolicited proposal, but although rarely successful. If they don't request a proposal, I submit it to them, it's rarely successful. But some of them are successful though. For instance, I mean, aside from proposal now, an organization is not advertising for vacancy, and you show up there, hey, I want to apply for a job here. There's no vacancy, but see, I want to apply. Okay, no problem. At least they won't throw it away. So you apply, and then they collect it. If there is nothing extraordinary about you, they just throw it away. But if they see something that ignites their interest in you, of course they'll call you. There are some guys that if they see very good materials, very good candidates, they will say, boy, I have to create a job for this one. I must find a job for this person. I want this person here. It happens so, but it's very successful because if there's no vacancy, there's only applying to places where they've not advertised. Okay. So there is something about proposal. Any proposal needs the involvement of different team members from technical, financial, and administrative side. Input from stakeholders or other specialists with different approaches, background, help bring in the necessary expertise, but also a larger variety of ideas on how to solve a particular issue and achieve the previously agreed objectives. To manage proposal development in an efficient way, it's advisable to assign the lead role to one specific person. This person is then responsible for the coordination of the overall proposal development, for communication with potential funders, and for making sure that all different pieces of input are brought together in a consistent and coherent text. Okay. Now, okay, so that's about proposals. Now, I don't know whether some of us have written proposals before, and what we did with the proposals, what we was done. Perhaps maybe that was in the school, right? All those things we did in school, undergraduates, they are not, they don't that all those ones they don't really show. It's not those ones that kind of jack or the other say it. All this in development world, all this academic way of doing things, they don't work. They don't fit well. You have to learn how to do them in the development world. You have to learn. You have to learn the concept. You have to learn the practice in the development world to be able to fit in, to be able to be successful in them. If you just write proposals like you are writing a proposal for one professor in the university, it's a joke. It won't work. It won't fly. Okay? So that's why a lot of times it becomes very embarrassing when you ask professors from universities to come and discuss, to come and talk in a development workshop, and they will be talking about literature review. We get very tired. Okay. Input writing. So I don't want to do output writing today. There's this Shapley things about proposals. I've lost that material now, which gives some insights into some that there are many types of proposals that will be out there, but there are some basic things about proposals. I think everything we've been discussing so far, if you look at the structure of, some weeks ago, we look at the protocol, right? It's like a proposal. In fact, in the developing world, that protocol we discuss is a proposal because you have to specify how you will do everything. You want that document, we start with background, went to objectives, with the sampling frame design, the field work. In the field work, we talk about how you will recruit enumerators, how you train them, how you manage the data. Okay. In the sampling frame, we discussed how you select the regions, maybe within a state, how you select and kind of samplings that you want to use, and how you go about implementing them. Then the field work and the training and field work, how you train, how you recruit people, what kind of qualifications you train them, how you manage field work, right? How you supervise field work and manage it. The data, how you will put data together, how you will make them to transit data into a central place, how you will ensure quality control of the data, and so on and so forth. How you manage data, how you analyze data, how you ensure that there's commitment to ethical practices, how you risks are well laid out, quantified, and how you mitigate each of the risk elements. Okay, and your timeline. When you want to, how long it's going to take the work plan, have to be in the proposal. And a lot of times they will tell you to submit a technical proposal separately and a financial proposal separately. And your technical proposal, your methodology determines your financial proposal. I've said it before, I will say it again. If you submit a technical proposal and then submit a financial proposal, and your financial proposal doesn't speak to your work plan, it is dead on arrival. It's not meaningful, it's useless. You cannot win. Sorry. You cannot win. So this is very different from the proposals in school. There are all those kind of things. That's nothing. In developing world, there are standards. There are ways in which you have to a lot of work, a lot of carefulness. So I think this morning I think I have some deadlines to meet. So I think I'll stop here. And next Monday we'll discuss the output side of. So in that, three major input writings: concept notes, expression of interests, and then proposals. So there are three major input writing. And as I said, you do input writing in order to be able to get the buy-in, get the result, get the space, get the chance, opportunity to do some work, to do something. So when you finish doing it, you want to report what you have done, then you do the output writing. And as I said, a lot of people asking to do output writing without having done anything. They are, I don't know, they are living in the physically. Okay, stop here. And then we'll continue on Monday. So if you have any questions or comments, please, I'd like to take them. All right. I want to stop presenting. Okay. Paul? Okay. Any questions or comments? Okay. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. All right. Bye.